Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics, back with the Simply Sweet Table Topper series, and this time is for November. We enjoyed our pumpkins last month, and now the leaves are turning. Beautiful maples in all kinds of colors. The squirrels are collecting all of their acorns, and this is a celebration, of course, of fall. The rich, beautiful colors here. Most of this is done with a BERNINA collection called a Woolly Autumn. If you have been watching our other series called Foundation Paper Piecing, we did our project here also in a Woolly's Autumn. So I like having that coordinated look. And if you haven't checked out that series and fallen in love with Foundation Paper Piecing, be sure to check that out. So much fun. This month, I love that our kit has these rich, amazing colors. What's different about this kit this month? We put something extra in there for you, and that is a skein of the brown embroidery floss that we've used to stitch all of our beautiful vines on. And the thread set is something that's kind of fun and different this month. Historically, on the previous months, it's all been 50 weight thread with just one 12 weight. This time, because we wanted all these veins in these leaves to really be really accentuated, everything is a 12 weight, which is a thicker thread. So if you're going to be picking that up, you're going to love the price point. 12 weight thread is less expensive than 50 weight, so it's a nice low price. Be sure to pick up the size 90 needles, and these are a super non-stick, of course, because you're going to be going through the fusible webbing. So it's the super non-stick size 9014 is engineered specifically for thicker thread, and of course the super non-stick is because we've got some fusible webbing happening. That's why you want this kit, right? This kit with the pre-fused laser cut applique just takes us to such a fun level that you can easily get this done in half a day. You're not tracing and cutting out these small little shapes. There's actually a lot of shapes happening, right? The stems, all the leaves, the bottom of the acorn, the top of the acorn, and of course the center. By the way, the center stitch here we did on our BERNINA. I think we have a note here. It was at stitch number 1334. So if you have a BERNINA and you love that stitch, pick that. Otherwise, if you're like me, where I just like to try different stitches, grab some scrap fabric and maybe you can do a fun decorative stitch that really personalizes your project and makes it your own. So that's just something we did here that's not done by hand. Let's dive into the project. If you've been joining the series, you know how to make our background and get it ready to go. This month, because we really wanted this to have this chiseled look, not only is the applique done, of course, all the way through to the background, the machine applique, I should say, but also the hand embroidery. We went all the way through to the background, especially with these clusters of berry, which is what we used with we created with our 12 weight thread. So as you are used to doing, get your kit, open up your pattern. Inside, you'll have your 2 diagram pages. Tape those together, cut out your shape. We've been doing this all along. Now we would bring on our background scallop already cut out for you, beautifully cut out, precisely cut out. And because we are going to be doing the embroidery a little bit later, be sure to trace on with a micron pen. That's a permanent pen. Whatever that is you might have at home, just don't grab for a friction pen. If you are indeed going to be following what we did, and I can see the stitching and feel it on the back. You really, from the front, can't even see that though, can you? But I can feel that. Well, your best friends aren't going to turn your project over and look at the back, right? They're just too busy admiring the front. So if you're going to be following the process we did, be sure to grab for the micron pen, turn that light on. Of course, you're going to start tracing all of your beautiful lines. Wherever there's a French knot, just make a small dot. Don't need to draw that big circle, just a dot to tell you where to put that stitch. Once you've drawn all of that on, that's when we'll go back and use our Applique mat. We'll use our diagram and we'll start to fuse these shapes together. Let's get a medium heat going on the iron. And I just love that these are done for me, right? There's so many things I want to do. Cutting and tracing is not one of my favorite things to do. And I've done plenty of that, of course. But the convenience of having a kit already perfectly curated with fabrics I obviously love, right? Or I wouldn't have bought the kit, is what I want to do. So if you haven't grabbed one of our kits in the past, make this the month that you do that. As you can see, you just kind of build this picture, right? There's no mystery of where anything goes. You can keep building the sight picture, bring this over to your wool pressing mat and simply put the iron on, 6 to 7 seconds, iron everything together, let everything cool. I'll do that. One thing we've discovered, don't peel off this backing just yet, right? Once you've put all of your shapes together, you let them cool, then you just simply peel them off. Such a cool process. This never gets old for me, by the way. I love the magic of the Applique mat. If you work on larger projects, they have larger mats as well. And obviously you're going to build your site picture, come over, iron everything down. In fact, let's just do that. Let's just do that real quick. Iron everything down. Of course, your lines would already be drawn, all of your vines. Once that's done, give a good press. Your background will be prepared. And if you're just now joining us for the series, you're like, you skipped over that. Go back to our earlier series, our earlier part of our series in February, where we go into very great detail about how to prepare that background, and there won't be any mystery. You'll have your background ready. Of course, you're going to place that into position, iron everything down. That's when now the amazing stitching comes into play. Let's just take a look at our project. We couldn't resist that 12 weight thread because it really just accentuates it. We're not trying to hide it, right? Sometimes people use a 50 weight, maybe even something higher, a 60 or an 80 weight, which is very fine. And the idea is to hide it. We're not going to hide that. We want to accentuate these stunning, rich colors. That's 12 weight sulky. And so you can see here, we'll get a close up of how we just did that with a sewing machine. So we put our size 90-14 needle in, loaded up our 12 weight. We did have a 50 weight in the bobbin, and we just did some beautiful stitching here. So that's so much fun. But let's talk about the embroidery here. It's a simple back stitch, and all we did was use our 12 weight thread as if it were embroidery floss. So let's just dive into that. We'll maybe do just a little bit of extra stitching just to refresh you here on this one. We can just pretend. So with your embroidery floss, get 2 skeins of the embroidery floss. I'm using a Richard Hemming size 4 needle. Nothing magic about that needle. It's just a nice size. It accommodates the girth of the thread without the hole being so big that the needle keeps coming unthreaded. So if you don't have a favorite needle, this is my go-to. It's a size 4. So we would just, of course, draw on a line. I'm just going to pretend real quick and just draw on a line, and we'll be able to erase that later. And let's just go over that. You know what? Let's do some berries in here too. Let's put some berries. I just want to refresh you on how to do French knots. We come up, and you're going down directly on that line. That needle should split that line. If you do that, it's all good. Just don't be tempted to take a stitch that's too long. You are creating the illusion of a curve with straight lines, right? So if you take too long of a stitch, it will be very jagged and not have a smooth presentation. Very straightforward. We've done a lot of back stitching along our projects. It's one of the most classic stitches. And then we kind of keep going. You always want to make sure that you're doing the back stitch first, because as we move on to our next stitch, the French knots, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, how do you deal with the fact that they're spaced out quite far? You're not going to take a jump across the back. Let me just go ahead and finish this one up real quick. Or at least far enough that we get kind of past where our French knots are. Okay, you get the idea. Keep going. Turn around to the back. Go shallow and tie off. Just go shallow. You've got lots of good batting and backing to tie into. That's another nice reason to really kind of put it all together and then do the stitching. You have a lot more to grab a hold of. So as I was saying here, let's take a look at this. Because of the distance, we did not jump across the back. See how that's not there. What did happen is we stitched in the orange. So we're looking at the orange. We stitched a French knot. The vine was already stitched, right? The vine's already done. French knot. You've got this pathway, but you also have all this nice bulk. We travel behind, underneath this, that you're in this gap back here. fact, let me just demonstrate this. Why am I describing it when I could just do it for you? Here's what we'll do. I'll do a French knot here, and then I'll pop up over here, and there'll be one, and you will not see where that happened. All right, we're grabbing our beautiful 12-weight thread from Sulky here, and you can see it's a thicker thread. We have 2 strands of that. You can just do a longer strand, thread that through here, and tie the knot. That's how we did this, twice as long as we normally would. Thread the needle, create the knot. Notice there's no tail. It's a really nice way to go. Then you don't have to worry about the needle becoming unthreaded. All right, French knots. We've done lots of this in the series, but let's just cover this here because I want to talk to you about traveling. We come up and bring this to the side. I like a nice bulky one. I'm going to probably do 4 wraps. Needles in front, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to pivot down. I'm going to walk that. It's a lot of thread on the needle. Keep tension so we don't get a little bit of a bird's nest here. And we have a nice bulky knot. That's what I want. Now let's say that this was our next spot. Simply turn the project over. Sometimes I'll actually kind of go, okay, I want to pop up here, and I look and go, this is where I'm going. This is my destination. And sometimes I'll put my finger here and I'll travel behind. I'm not coming to the front. I'm traveling in that gap back there. And if you pop up in the ballpark, you're good, right? If you have any trouble with the thread knotting, because you're going through bulk in there, right? You can always use something called Thread Magic. This is really a thread conditioner. Simply run this through. It creates kind of a slick. This works great for all kinds of different thread, pearl cotton. It creates this kind of slick. It's less likely now to create a tangle. Okay, so now we popped up. So now we come over here and we can do our French knot as I did. And we can just do another one just to refresh us. I'll take these out. This is our sample, so I'll take these out. But again, needle in front. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pivot. Walk that down. Hold tension. Push through. Oh, that thread magic was wonderful. That made that. Notice there was no resistance. Boom, done. And then as before, simply tie off in the back. So as you can see, the stitching here, very simple but elegant. Sometimes the simple stitches are just so tastefully done. It adds such a pretty dimension to a project. And hey, this was just our idea for stitching. As always, this book is like the Bible of embroidery. You want to do something different or maybe do a decorative stitch by hand around the center or somewhere else, be sure to pick that up. I say it every month and I'm saying it again to you. I keep watching the inventory of these kits just dwindling. And, you know, you fall in love with that group of fabrics. You want that kit. Be sure to pick up these kits. People, as they're discovering the series, are going back and grabbing those. So if that's you and you keep thinking, next week I'll do that, do it today. Grab your kits, your coordinating thread sets, maybe jump into the foundation paper piecing series. Subscribe, hit that bell. I'll see you next month as we continue our Simply Sweet Table Topper series for December.